Hello everyone. Right now we're going to review the Goth Warriors from Wargames Atlantic. Alright, so what do you actually get in the box? You get 6 of the exact same sprue. On each sprue you have 5 different bodies. They have the flat connections at the shoulders, so it's pretty easy to mix and match each one of the weapon types. On each sprue you have enough spears, or I guess long javelins, whatever you want to call them, to make 5 to equip each of the 5 bodies. However, you only have 3 bows, 3 sling options, and 3 axe options, and 3 sword options. So if you want to do spears, no problem. You can fill 30 guys with spears from the box. However, only 18 guys can have swords if you decide to go that route, and 18 guys have bows. Same thing with the slings and axes. However, that's a small downside. One thing that I really don't understand is they only give you 4 shields for 5 guys on each sprue. They do have some very nice poses on the arms for the bows, so it's not like a very static pose. You can get a nice mix. The spears are a nice mix between underhand, more relaxed pose, and overhand. And then the shields themselves are also a little bit strange. They just have a flat back, no detail, and they're relatively small. So this is a little bit of a strange, I don't know, choice that they made, but yeah, it's not the end of the world. They also have like a little horn blower, the Draco, and some nice like little horse tails for the helmets, and then also some shields in their, or sorry, some swords in their scabbards. Finally, the number of heads with helmets. So you have 6 helmeted heads with kind of a variety of styles, with the side kind of cheek protectors and some without. They all have beards. On the unarmored heads, you actually have 6 down here and then 2 further ones with beards, mustaches, and just kind of generally shouting or with their mouth closed. So, and you also have a little cape for your kind of leader guy. So let's actually build some of these guys. So I put some together, primed some of them, and even painted one. So this is just a standard guy with a shield. There you go. He's looking pretty good, I think. Quick paint job, but very passable. One thing I had trouble with was the face itself. I just found it very soft detail. It didn't take washes very nicely. And then I just kind of messed it up a little bit. But some of the other heads are a little bit better. So a little bit disappointed. I like the fingers. They're quite nice. They're it's not like a blob. The spear itself is really nice. It doesn't feel like it's going to break anytime soon, like some of the other manufacturer, and it's also not as chunky as the Gripping Beast one. So I'm actually really happy about the body, the weapon. The shield's okay. I think we can, like, as wargamers, you probably have several hundred shields lying around, so that's not a big issue. If you're starting off, yeah, the shields themselves are not, like, there's nothing bad with them. It's just very few options. The slinger itself, I was initially quite hopeful, but I don't know. I think it's passable as a model. The body itself, I don't know, it's not the most dynamic pose. I think you can play around with it a little bit better. Essentially just cut off one of the hands from one of the spear arms and then put the hand with the sling there. One thing that's maybe missing is a kind of like a pouch or something where they can put their stones or anything else like that. And the heads is a little bit difficult to get to line up to make it look natural, because he's kind of pointing, looking somewhere different, and then throwing the stone also in a different location. So I think it's passable. Unfortunately, not like the best one so far. This is one of the guys with the bows. For some reason, he doesn't have a head. I think it fell off sometime during priming, but anyway. It gives you a nice view. I think the pose itself is very nice. The accessory gets on quite easily. The bow itself is also doesn't look too fragile. and also not too chunky. So I think they found like a nice middle point there. The tunic and everything else is also looking quite natural in terms of just like a reasonable pose for an archer. So happy with the bow options. Here it's just a guy I primed just to give you a little bit more definition with a spear. So here you can see one of the helmeted heads. Sorry, I'm just trying to find, yeah. So you can see that the detail is a little bit soft on the heads. It's not horrible, but it's also maybe a little bit of a shame. I think they could have done just a little bit more with the heads. Also, the helmets seem quite tight on the heads. I'm not sure where their heads would fit in the helmet. So, but kind of as a gaming piece, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Again, spear is pretty solid without being massively chunky. So pretty happy overall. And I tried something out since I was having issues with the heads. This is one of the Victrix Germanic warrior heads, but Victrix is pretty consistent in their scale. So just to give you an idea of, yes, if you have some other heads lying around, I think this combination is actually kind of your kind of ideal. This has the slightly simplified tunic of the Wargames Atlantic and nice poses and easy to put together, combined with the very expressive and detailed heads of Victrix, which I think they do really well. And in my opinion, it looks nicely in scale. It's the kind of joint is also nice, like it's compatible. It's just flat, kind of on the top of the neck. So that's nicely done. So I'm actually very happy about this one. So for my warband that I'm building, I think I'm going to try and switch out some of the Germanic heads as well from Victrix, since you get tons if you buy a box of that. And then I'm also very happy because I'm not going to have to paint tons of folds, which is kind of one of the downsides of Victrix. However, just as a comparison, because people always ask, how does it compare to other manufacturers? So here I've taken one of the trusty Gripping Beast Dark Age Warriors. Actually, I'll take one with the Wargames Atlantic head. So here you can see the scale. They're a little bit larger, but not massively so. It's always difficult to get this nicely on camera. They fit quite nicely together. I don't think there's once you put them on the table, it's not outrageously different. The Gripping Beast ones are a little bit hunchbacked compared to the other ones. The necks are a little bit longer. But yeah, once you put it on the table, it's not super visible that they're massively different from maybe a few, like 1 or 2 feet away. As I said, the shields are pretty tiny. So this is the Wargames Atlantic shield compared to just the standard Gripping Beast one. So that's kind of a shame. I quite like painting lots of patterns on shields and like that. So you have a little bit of a smaller area, but it does mean that, you know, I don't know. I don't know what the historical reason for that is, but anyway. So overall, very, very compatible. Here's just another Gripping Beast model with the helmet this time. So it's just, you can see that they're not wildly out of line. I think you can mix and match, and I will be doing that pretty easily, so that there's no real issue there. But I think the main difference is the length of the spears and just how chunky they are. They're about, it seems, maybe 1.5 times chunkier. So like I think they're fine in terms of not breaking anytime soon. Also grabbed one of the Victrix slingers. So this is kind of what I'm talking about. The slingers are passable. I think the Victrix ones are a little bit more natural, and they have just slightly better poses, and it's all integrated. They have a little pouch. So I think for slingers, I'll definitely be using the Victrix, and the Victrix are a little bit chunkier. They're wider, they're longer. They're not quite probably 28 millimeters, but I think if you kind of mix them, I'm not sure. It's really depending on personal taste if you want to do that. Finally, the last comparison, I promise, is just the Victrix compared to the unarmored Victrix Warrior. See if I can get that a little bit lined up. There you go, kind of. Let's see, it's focusing on something else. Here we go. Okay, so it's a little bit, again, Victrix a little bit chunkier, taller, but nothing outrageous. And you can kind of see what I'm talking about in terms of just how much creases and extra detail you have on Victrix, which is both nice, but if you want to get them just done and on the table quickly, having something a little bit simpler is actually perfectly fine as well. So what do I think about the box itself? I'm actually pretty positive about it. I think it's really good for beginners. It's really easy to get into. You get 30 models. It's really nice if you want to get into Age of Invasions. I think the Visigoths, you're going to have a perfectly good time building this one out. Also mixing and matching with some of the Wargames Atlantic other sets. I think it's versatile enough to be able to be used for many factions in Age of Vikings, for example. Well, basically, I would say basically anything. One problem you'll have is the helmets don't quite match up to the kind of Age of Vikings time period. However, depending on how serious you take it, it's not a big deal. Also, it's compatible with Victrix heads, so you can mix and match there quite easily in terms of just the helmets and even the unarmored heads. Finally, I think it's a really nice all-in-one box. You get guys with spears, guys with axes, guys with swords, and also the option to make really nice looking archers and also passable slingers. So in terms of versatility, it's a really, really nice box. You get a ton of extra bits. However, the downside would probably be the number of shields and the style of shields. I think given you only have 5 bodies, it would be nice to be able to mix and match different size shields, different style of shields like the rounded ones or the flat ones, just because it makes a really easy, it's actually a really easy way of making the 5 bodies that come on the sprue look different, especially over the whole army, if you just can manage to mix like a different shield type as well. So that's one downside. The heads themselves are a little bit soft on detail, but I don't think it's a deal breaker. Personally, I'll be mixing and matching with some different manufacturers on the heads. But all in all, nice little box. If you're in the market for some Age of Invasions or some just, I guess, generic levy or warriors for Age of Vikings, definitely have a look at this box. I think they're making some extra options as well, where they actually have cavalry. The range will get cavalry, so I'm looking forward to that. I haven't actually seen that many warbands being made with them yet. I think it's down maybe to supply chain issues that they haven't really reached that many people yet, but hopefully people will recognize that this is also perfectly good for Age of Vikings. Hopefully we'll start seeing some more armies appear soon.